Good Girl's Guide to Murder. But is it really a guide? I read this book back in year 8, I think, and I literally could not put it down. I thought I'd do something a little bit different, just because I'm trying to find my feet with YouTube and see what content I like making the most and what content you guys like seeing the most. This is my first book review, so if you do like it, please make sure you let me know and like and subscribe. Just a warning before we get into this, I want to let you guys know that there are some serious topics that are spoken about in this book. Things like murder, drugs, raping, kidnapping, killing, stuff like that. So about the actual book, you can tell how long I've had this because of how much it is just falling apart and it's kind of dusty. Good Girl's Guide to Murder was released on the 2nd of May 2019. It is a young adult mystery crime debut novel by the British author Holly Jackson. This is the first book in the series, followed by Good Girl Bad Blood, which was released in 2020, As Good as Dead, which was then released in 2021, and finally Kill Joy, which was released as well in 2021. On the 1st of July 2024, I believe, a 6-part television adaptation was released onto BBC iPlayer. So what actually is the plot? The plot follows an investigation of a 17-year-old student called Pippa Fitz-Amobi, who is a student, I've already said that, living in a fictional town called Little Kilton, Buckinghamshire. The novel follows an investigation into the murder of popular student Andy Bell, as well as the suicide of the perpetrator Salil Singh for a school exam/project. Pip's objectives are to exonerate. Exoneration occurs when the convict of a crime is reversed, either through demonstration of innocence, a flaw in the conviction, or otherwise. Salil, who she believed to be falsely accused, and uncover the true perpetrator, who she still believes to be at large. So, what's the summary of it? 5 years before the book's events occurred, we find out about a murder-suicide in the town of Little Kilton, where Andy Bell was brutally murdered by her boyfriend, Salil Singh. Sal Singh, who had originally been a person of interest, but was later believed to have I actually don't know how to say that word, ostensibly, as appears or is stated to be true, though not necessarily, sending her a text confessing her crime, which I have written down the reference for. Pip flicked over to it. At 10:17 a.m. on his final Tuesday morning, Sal said to his father, "It was me. I did it. I'm so sorry," then proceeded to take his life. However, Pip is still convinced that Sal is completely innocent and that the real killer is still free. Pippa asks Sal's brother, Ravi, to help her in her investigation. Ravi refuses after their weird first encounter, but later agrees to assist her. Throughout the books, Pippa and Ravi's relationship definitely progresses, obviously having its ups and downs, but is very tense between them at certain times. With every interrogation Pippa goes through, interviewing people, going through people's devices, she puts herself in great danger. And even after receiving violent threats in the form of both written messages, which we can find on page 107, she unfolded the paper, eyes skipping across it. In a large formal font printed against the page were the words, "Stop digging, Pippa." We can find another one on the page 352 and 353. However, this is when she goes through her best friend's dad's devices. She finds an unnamed, unsaved document which read, "This is your final warning, Pippa. Walk away." And multiple text messages. We can find one of these text messages on page 290. It says, "Someone had typed, 'You need to stop this, Pippa.'" Her dog Barney is also stolen and drowned. From what we read, we can tell that she tried to call Barney, her dog, multiple times. However, even after calling her, I think it's a him, no sounds of paws trampling through the fallen leaves, no golden flash among the trees, nothing. Cold fear began to creep up her toes and down her fingers. "Barney," she shouted, and her voice cracked, the dog lead swinging in wide empty arcs from her hand. Page 316, also chapter 34, is where she tells her mum and her dad about, obviously, Barney not coming back. On page 319, she then gets another text message. This text message was from someone called Unknown, who said, "Want to see your dog again." On page 320, which is also chapter 35, she gets another text message. Again, this text message was from Unknown, but it reads, "Take your computer and any USBs or hard drives that your project is saved on. Bring them to the tennis club car park with you and walk 100 paces into the trees on the right side. Do not tell anyone and come alone. If you follow these instructions, you will get your dog back." On page 322, she then goes to the place in the woods, but she gets another message almost about a minute after. The text message reads, "Destroy everything and leave it there. Do not tell anyone what you know. No more questions about Andy. This is finished now." And then on page 326, her dad comes into her bedroom. He walked over and propped his back against her desk, his legs crossed out in front of him. "Listen, Pip," he said gently. "Someone just found Barney." Pip's breath stuck halfway down her throat. "Why don't you look happy?" "He must have fallen in somehow. They found him in the river." Her dad reached down and took her hand. "I'm sorry, darling. He drowned." So, even after she's received multiple violent threats and messages and stuff like that, and her dog was stolen and drowned, she still persists with the investigation. After going to a house party, trying to find a specific person's details, Pippa and Ravi then go to this person's house and question him and blackmail him, inevitably finding evidence that Andy Bell was selling illegal drugs to other students in her school. One of these people was Max Hastings. On page 202, we have the whole conversation of Howie, the drug dealer, and Andy, and what drugs she sold and who she sold these drugs to. "Okay," she said, "so which drugs was Andy selling at house parties?" Howie crushed the empty can and threw it on the floor. "Started just weed," he said. "By the end, she was selling a load of different things. She sold weed, sometimes MDMA, methadone, ketamine. She had a couple of regular buys by Rohypnol." If you don't know what Rohypnol is, it's basically known as the date rape drug. "Did you know who was buying Rohypnol from Andy?" Pip said. There was this posh kid, I think," she said. "I dunno." "A posh kid?" Pip's mind immediately drew a picture of him, his angular face and sneering smile, his floppy yellow hair. "Was this posh kid blonde?" Howie looked blankly at her and shrugged. "Answer it, or we go to the police," Ravi said. "Yeah, it could have been that blonde guy." Pippa also found evidence that Andy was having an affair with a history teacher at their school. This history teacher was called Elliot Ward, who was also the father of Pippa's long-standing best friend, Cara Ward. On page 381, Pip and Elliot have a conversation about Andy Bell and hers and Elliot Ward's relationship. "You and Andy Bell were seeing each other in March 2012, she said. Start at the beginning, Elliot. We don't have long." "It wasn't like that," he stuttered. He moaned and held his head. "Elliot!" He sniffed and straightened. "Okay," he said. "It was late February. Andy started paying attention to me at school. I wasn't teaching her. She didn't take history. But she'd follow me in the halls and ask me about my day. And, I don't know, I guess the attention felt nice. I'd been so lonely since Isabel died. And then Andy starts asking to have my phone number. Nothing had happened at this point. We hadn't kissed or anything, but she kept asking. I told her that would be inappropriate, and yet, soon enough, I found myself in the phone shop, buying another SIM card so I could talk to her, and no one would find out. I don't know why I did it. I suppose it felt like a distraction from missing Isabel. I just wanted someone to talk to. I only put the SIM in at night, so Naomi would never see anything, and we started texting. Andy started suggesting we meet somewhere outside of school, like a hotel. I told her absolutely not, but in a moment of madness, a moment of weakness, I found myself booking one. She could be very persuasive. We agreed a time and date, but I had to cancel last minute because Cara had chickenpox. That's when it happened the first time." His voice was quiet with shame. "We didn't stay the night. I couldn't leave the girls for a whole night. We stayed just a couple of hours." On page 398, Pippa sends a message to her best friend Cara. "I should be ringing to tell you this, but I don't think I could get through the telling, not with your little voice at the end of the line. This is the coward's way out, and I'm truly sorry. It was your dad, Cara. Your dad is the one who killed Sal Singh. He was keeping a girl he believed was Andy Bell in your old house in Wendover. He's been arrested. Naomi will be safe, I give you my word. I know why he did when you're ready to hear it. I'm so sorry. I wish I could save you from this. I love you." Pippa also discovers that Elliot Ward had pushed Andy Bell into a desk. When Andy went missing, Elliot thought that he had killed her, and then in turn killed and framed Sal Singh. Several days after Andy's actual death, Elliot mistook a girl for Andy Bell, kidnapped her, and then locked her in his attic in Wendover, which is what was mentioned in Pippa's text to Kara. While interviewing Becca, Andy's older sister, Becca confessed that Max Hastings had drugged and raped Becca with Rohypnol that Andy had sold to Max. In anger, Becca admitted to pushing Andy down outside, which led to Andy convulsing and dying. Convulse, suffer violent involuntary contraction of the muscles, producing contortion of the body and the limbs. While Becca was still in shock, she drove Andy's body and hid it in a septic tank in a farmhouse not far from Pippa's home. Becca also admits that while the written and printed notes were from Elliot Ward, the text messages were actually from Becca. When Pippa attempts to confront Becca about her actions, Pippa is drugged and Becca almost strangles her to death. However, because Pippa still has the tracking device on her, Ravi comes in and saves her at the last minute. On page 412, we read, that Pip starts drinking her coffee. On page 413, Pip says this to Becca. Your face wasn't like theirs, Becca. You looked confused. You looked scared. You knew for sure it couldn't be your sister, because you killed her, didn't you? On page 414, we start seeing the effect of the Rohypnol in Pip's drink. Something hurt inside Pip, something congealed and cold that closed around her heart as she looked into Becca's heart. No, she didn't. She looked into her eyes. That's either metaphorically, because she's just found out the truth that Becca killed Andy, or that is actually the drugs. I'm reading that, I'm actually not so sure now. And then from about 414 to page 416, we kind of see the Rohypnol take its effect, but like actually, not possibly metaphorically. On page 415, it then says that Pip wiped her eyes, feeling shaky and drained. On page 416, it then talks about how Pip had to lean forward to hold her head because it started getting too heavy. 417, Pippa asks where Becca hid Andy, but then Pip nodded gently, her fuzzy head grappling with Andy's final fate. 418, Pip said, I loved him so much, feeling dizzy, unjoining from herself. She spoke fast, slurring her tongue, tripping up over her words. Page 419, Pip looked at her. Becca must have been talking, but suddenly all the sound in the world disappeared. There was just the buzz of a beetle's wings trapped inside her head. The table was mutating and fizzing between them, and some ghost-drawn weight started to drag down Pip's eyelids. She stuttered. The world dimmed. The only bright thing was the empty mug in front of her, wavering, its colours dripping into the air. You put some in my drink? There were a few of Max's pills left in Andy's hiding place. I kept them. Becca's voice came to Pip loud and garish, a shrieking Claflin echo switching from ear to ear. Pip pushed up from her chair, but her left leg was too weak. It gave out under her, and she crashed into the kitchen island. Something smashed, and the pieces were flying around like jagged clouds, and up as the world spun around her. This part freaks me out a little bit because I'm very emetophobic, so just a warning, it does talk about sick. The room lurched and Pip stumbled over to the sink, leaned into it, and rammed her fingers down her throat. She vomited, and it was dark brown and stinging, and she vomited again. A voice came to her from somewhere near and somewhere far. I'll work something out. I have to. There's no evidence. There's just you and what you know. I'm sorry, I don't want to do this. Why couldn't you just leave it alone? Pip staggered back and wiped her mouth. The room reeled again, and Becca was in front of her, her shaking hands outstretched. No, Pip tried to scream, but her voice got lost somewhere inside. She held back and sidestepped around the island. Her fingers bit into one of the stools to keep her on her feet. She grabbed it and launched it behind her. There was a head-split echo of clattering as it took out Becca's legs. Pip ran into the wall in the hallway, ears ringing and shoulder throbbing. She leaned into it so it wouldn't morph away from her and scaled her way to the front door. It wouldn't open, but then she blinked and it vanished, and she was outside somehow. It was dark and spinning, and there was something in the sky. Bright and colourful mushrooms and doom clouds and sprinkles. The fireworks with a ripping the earth sound from the common. Pip picked up her feet and ran towards the bright colours into the woods. The trees were walking in a wooden two-step, and Pip's feet went numb, missing. Another sparkling sky roar, and it made her blind. She pushed, and Pip fell on her back in the leaves and mud, and Becca was standing over her, hands splayed and reaching down, and a rush of energy came to her. She forced it down her leg and kicked out hard, and Becca was on the ground too, lost in the dark leaves. She looked up into Becca's eyes. She knows where to put you, where they'll never find you, in a dark as dark place with the bones of Andy Bell. Then a crash of rustling footsteps, and a shadow leaped over them, and Becca was dragged off. More sounds, shouting and screaming, and "You're okay, Pickle." And then Ravi came to save the day and called the ambulance for Pip. With the truth now public, Sal is finally exonerated. Becca and Mr. Ward are arrested and put in prison for their double homicide. Like I said at the beginning, this book and this series had an insane chokehold on me. The amount of turning points and plot twists there are in this book amaze me every time. A lot of the time, the book does go at a nice pace. However, there are certain times where it goes a little bit fast-paced or too slow for my liking. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder really made my obsession with criminology and stuff like this grow a lot. And even to this day, I still love reading this book and this series because it's mental. I did also watch the series, however, in the series, they missed so much out from the book, like even important things. I absolutely loved Pippa and Ravi, not just together, but also just separately. I mean, Ravi went through so much, even before Pippa did this investigation, and it brought up so many old feelings. Pippa has all the perseverance I wish I had. If someone had killed my cat, I don't have a dog, because they wanted me to stop an investigation, I would drop everything. I would not continue. In conclusion, I definitely give it like a 9 out of 10. I mean, it was almost perfect, but there were certain parts that came off a little bit cringe or a little bit like painstakingly obvious to me. I personally would recommend this to a younger kind of teenager, like 12, 13 years old, because the first book isn't extremely gory. It's not that bad. However, the last one is a little bit worse. Let me know what you guys think of this book in the comments, and if you like the book reviews, because I can do more. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and follow me on all of my social below. Goodbye!